Amitabha, Buddha. What the Buddha said in the Kitagarbhastra. Beings in Yamfudi, having a unified mind and intention, does not constitute a sin. A 100 flowers, displayed within a noble family. Good practices. There are only 11. What about the law? There are 26. It can be concluded. To act according to what is said. The notion of inherent evil is not without reason. So this faith is a habit, not an inherent quality. Nature is beyond good and evil. So the trust established by Confucius is different from that discussed by Mencius and Zunzi. Confucius speaks of nature, hence he says that human nature is similar. The inherent nature of all beings, is very similar. In Buddhist teachings, the concept of nature is one, not two. That meaning is deeper. Joyful agreement. What does Mencius say about trust? It is habits. Habits. This gradually leads one away from their true nature. This Xiang Yu has strayed from his true nature. In Buddhist teachings, it is said that one loses their true nature and habits. This one meter just doesn't know how to turn back. This is being lost without reflection. Not knowing whether to turn back or not, one becomes increasingly lost. You see, from the incubator to the 10 realms of the Dharma, to the Bodhisattvas and the original awakening of the sound and text, to the 6 realms all the way to the 3 lands. The deeper the confusion grows. Truly, each generation is worse than the last. This is a real phenomenon. One lifetime is not as good as another. Tired, all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, to teach and guide beings within the 6 realms and 10 Dharma realms. Renewing benefits. Connected with the Buddha and Bodhisattvas. Listening to advice. It is easy to turn back, and this is what is referred to as being saved. It's all about fate. If one cannot encounter the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, then there's nothing that can be done. Encounter the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Listen to the teachings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but cannot have deep faith. Cannot be practiced. Although I still create karma and fall into decline, at least I have planted the roots in Alaya. Only the roots of goodness are weak. The afflictions and habits are strong. This goodness, the root of goodness, is nothing but the afflictions and habitual tendencies. Do we still have to undergo long-term cycles of rebirth? In this life, we have encountered the teachings of Buddhism. We are very fortunate to be able to make a contribution, and we should be aware of this. That is the realm of the infinite, the good roots, accumulated through countless lifetimes of learning the Dharma. This life takes effect. To take effect, one must be guided. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are compassionate, saying that in the teachings of the Buddha, no one should be left behind. Yesterday. Chairman Li Yi. Tell me. A few days ago, there was an elderly layperson. This old person is over 60 years old. He often recites Amitabha Buddha's name in our chanting hall. He's also ill, and his illness is severe. Tell the layperson, he is about to be reborn. This is the matter that the layperson has raised regarding the arrangements for after his passing. I will be going to China on the 26th. If you want to be reborn, it has to be before that date. So I can help you. If it's after that time, I won't be able to assist. He said okay. He was talking about yesterday, specifically the date of yesterday, which was, the 20th. At 4:20, he said it happened at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Was it just a few days ago that I told him, yesterday afternoon at 5 o'clock, not a second off? He just left. Li layperson agreed to handle it appropriately. To say that the arrangements will be completed, it will be on the 25th, and the trip to China will be on the 26th. This has happened more than once. I have encountered it several times in the past. Not only can one foresee the essence, but one can also act in advance. We can also leave later. In Buddhist teachings, it is said that one can choose the timing of their life and death. They can decide to leave this world. Earlier or later, whenever they wish. This is the essence of life and death. The elderly lady reciting Amitabha Buddha's name in the hall. You should know that this refers to beings who have truly achieved their potential. He has gone to the Western Pure Land to become a Buddha. So I often say. In the temple, the scholars recite Amitabha Buddha's name. The sage is not defined by the number of people how many truly achieve rebirth. This is called mathematics. We see that in the West there is indeed the Bodhisattva of wonderful conduct, and among their group there are only 12 people practicing together. All 12 have achieved rebirth. You could say that is a majority rebirth. This scholar looks at the crowd from this place and finds it lively. Who is that scholar? So how can reciting Amitabha Buddha's name lead to rebirth? We are now quite clear about these principles, methods, and realms. Practice according to the principles and laws. It truly reflects what the ancient great master said, all who cultivate will attain. It is all the truth. In practice, what you cannot let go of is your attachment to this world. There are things you hold on to. This is what is meant by being unable to let go. This is the real obstacle. We recite the teachings daily. It is essential to understand that this world is an illusion. It is not real. All forms are but illusions. All conditioned phenomena are like dreams, fantasies, bubbles, and shadows. Nothing should be taken seriously. It is only true that rebirth, through the recitation of Amitabha Buddha's name, is real. I've made up my mind. This person is the infinite life, the infinite light. The elderly layperson who passed away yesterday was in a state of infinite longevity while reciting Amitabha Buddha's name and circumambulating the Buddha. The prince is a living prince, not a deceased one. This Buddhist teaching is known as the Dharma of achieving enlightenment in this lifetime. I no longer want this stinky skin wolf to go to the Western Pure Land. I will discard it. Change into another body. The new body is like that of Amitabha Buddha. They often tell us about the true essence and spirit of self-drawing. Light is completely the same as the Buddha. The Western world is an equal world. This is the real thing. Everything else is false. Why keep falsehoods in your heart? We need to understand principle. We need to understand these facts and truths. Out-of-stock self-cultivation is foundation of learning Buddhism. These are the conditions that must be met for rebirth. In Jiangxi, we particularly emphasize that everyone who reaches the Western Pure Land is a person of great virtue. One must possess the conditions for great goodness. Climbing the mountain I suffer. Doing good is easy. Good deeds are good. In daily life, how to deal with people and handle situations. There is not a trace of malice. We possess these conditions. Citing Amitabha Buddha's name, be reborn. Therefore, it can be understood that many people recite Amitabha Buddha's name. Reciting Amitabha Buddha's name but can't transform. Is it the majority? In the past, I was in Taichung. Lieben often told me stories. Out of 10,000 people who recite Amitabha Buddha's name, only 2 or 3 truly achieve rebirth. Why does this phenomenon occur? Now we understand the reason. Reciting Amitabha Buddha's name well is indeed very courageous and diligent. The Sutra on the Precepts. Still unable to achieve rebirth. What is the reason for this? A kind heart indeed leads to good deeds. Standards have not been met. In the Bible, it also talks about love. and adversity. There is morning meeting. This can't rebirth. We really need to clarify and understand this. It is important to be clear about when rebellion and wrongful actions occur. Breaking the mirror while lying down is to become divine. Therefore, indeed, there is much to discuss here. The weight of actions, more than the rewards of good deeds, one may go through life unaware. Almost. If we look at it in terms of proportions, good retribution only accounts for 1/4, while bad retribution accounts for 3/4. The first sentence. This is a general statement. The ravines move with wings, diverging in their paths. This commentary states very clearly about life and death. In detail, it refers to matters that bring misfortune upon me. The two sentences essentially serve as an outline. This quantity is general outline. The pillars say it well. The essence lies within the heart. The actions are manifested in the world. Action is the power of united effort. This is disgusting. This is malicious. To deviate and act otherwise is to lie down and go astray. Completely the opposite of the three aspects. Act without meaning. Righteousness, which is also the principle of righteousness. Inside this character, what are the standards of a previous existence? Old winter. What are the standards for ministers? This principle is faith. In everything. If it does not align with the mind, it is merely a thought. This is an alien object. My heart. The standards of faith are high. What rules for a bodhisattva? We use discussing scriptures as a metaphor. What Master Huineng said originally. There is no worry. As long as there is a house. It was wrong. Therefore, in Zen Buddhism, even a lifetime of reciting Amitabha Buddha's name feels like trying to rinse one's mouth for 3 days without ever feeling clean. What he said doesn't make sense, but it does make sense. If the mind is originally empty, then where does the Buddha come from? Look, even reciting Amitabha Buddha's name is a fault. A thought arises in my heart, and I connect with the Buddha. Everything is wrong. So where should I go? So then we ask, what does psychology have left? I don't want to think about anything. Is it right? No, it's not. Is it still wrong? What mistake? You have fallen into ignorance. You really need to not think about anything. Where will you go? Ascend to the realm of no thought. I want to listen to the teachings of the external path. So you say, Qi Xiandong got it wrong. Not having any thoughts or movements is also wrong. So what should we do? The great master often, stop speaking at this point. You should contemplate it yourself. The study of Buddha's teachings. Regardless of whether it is Mahayana or Theravada, there is a fundamental principle that is universally applicable. There is certainly sans confusion. Many namely. Having awareness without concentration leads to distractions. Without name, neither ignorance nor delusion holds on to either side. This is a book by Ding Wenhui called The Dual Cultivation of Wealth and Wisdom. Everything is clear. Society is like an unchanging state of meditation. When one is unmoved and everything is clear, when everything is clear, such is the state of being unmoved. This is true skill. No matter. In both favorable and unfavorable circumstances, whether good or bad connections, they never pose any hindrance to him. Remain unaffected by external appearances and keep a calm heart. Clear and distinct, perfectly understood. This great teaching often speaks of urgency, a heart that is urgent. Urgency means to have a mind that is unmoved, which is to be clear and distinct. So that life is a life lived in a state of concentration. It's completely different upon further reflection. This level is too high for us beginners to reach. We can't reach it. So, we will lower the standards of this meaning. I often advise everyone to lower their standards. Follow the teachings of the Buddha. This is righteousness. It reflects our current level of understanding. We rely on the Infinite Life Sutra. For responsiveness, it is something we can depend on. Although it is not promoted by the Buddhist scriptures. It says within, do no evil, and practice all good. The annotations made during the meeting, there are memories that linger to this day. That is no different from what the Buddhas have said. Ah, this is what we should rely on. Achieve us. Good heart, good intention, good heart. So let us unite our thoughts and intentions. I often think about this thought of mine, this idea of mine. Buddha, never allow me. If the Buddha does not allow me to think this way, in the scriptures, then I must quickly let go of this thought. The Buddha is in business. If permitted, we entertain this thought. Let's be advised to avoid this thought. However, this thought is something we must have. The Pure Land teachings. We are truly discussing it today. One can only attain rebirth by waiting. We can achieve this. We support the teachings of the Buddha as we await the arrival of the Leaf King. So, we really can't even touch the edges of Zen. That realm is too high. We are transitioning from oil to emptiness. People come from emptiness to existence. Today we are using this method to go from existence to possibility. In Buddhism, when we recite Amitabha Buddha's name, we embody the Buddha and enjoy the blessings of the Buddha. We experience happiness every day. Aspiring towards the Buddha's goodness, aspiring towards the Buddha's brightness, emulating the Buddha's mindfulness, aspiring towards the Buddha's intention. We've thought too much. We gradually become more like the Buddha. One can seek survival through the court, but if one goes against the teachings of the Buddha, actions that violate trust, this is a big nest. What we usually say is that this is outdated. In the Taisheng Gainiang Pian, it speaks of the Great Self. These two sentences are significant. The source. Act without criticism. Walk away from the path. These two phrases sound quite mild, don't they? This life, a meaning too deep, too deep. We need to be able to understand it.